The House of Dreams was first published in the Sovereign magazine January 1926. According to Agatha Christie's autobiography, it was a revised version of the unpublished The House of Beauty. Written before the First World War, and the first thing I ever wrote that showed any kind of promise. This is the story of John Segrave, of his life which was unsatisfactory, of his love which was unsatisfied, of his dreams and of his death, and if in the two latter he found what was denied in the two former, then his life may after all be taken as a success. Who knows? Exactly what I was looking for. John Segrave came from a family which had been slowly going downhill for the last century. They had been landowners since the days of Elizabeth, but their last piece of property was sold. It was thought well that one of the sons at least should acquire the useful art of money making. It was an unconscious irony of fate that John should be the one chosen. With his strangely sensitive mouth and the long dark blue slits of eyes that suggested an elf or a faun, something wild and of the woods, it was incongruous that he should be offered up a sacrifice on the altar of finance. The smell of the earth, the taste of the sea salt on one's lips, and the free sky above one's head, these were the things beloved by John Segrave to which he was to bid farewell. At the age of 18, he became a junior clerk in a big business house. 7 years later, he was still a clerk, not quite so junior, but with status otherwise unchanged. The faculty for getting on in the world had been omitted for his maker. He was punctual, industrious, plodding, a clerk and nothing but a clerk. And yet, he might have been what? He could hardly answer that question himself, but he could not rid himself of the conviction that somewhere there was a life in which he could have counted. There was power in him, swiftness of vision, a something of which his fellow toilers had never had a glimpse. They liked him. He was popular because of his air of careless friendship, and they never appreciated the fact that he barred them, but by that same manner from any real intimacy. The dream came to him suddenly. It was no childish fantasy growing and developing through the years. It came on a midsummer night, or rather early morning, and he woke from it tingling all over, striving to hold it to him as it fled, slipping from his clutch in the elusive way dreams have. Desperately he clung to it. It must not go, it must not. He must remember the house. It was the house, of course. The house he knew so well. Was it a real house, or did he merely know it in dreams? He didn't remember, but he certainly knew it very well. The faint grey light of the early morning was stealing into the room. The stillness was extraordinary. At 4:30 a.m., London, weary London, found her brief instant of peace. John Segrave lay quiet, wrapped in the joy, the exquisite wonder and beauty of his dream. How clever it had been of him to remember it. A dream flitted so quickly as a rule ran past you just as with waking consciousness your clumsy fingers sought to stop and hold it. But he had been too quick for this dream. He had seized it as it was slipping swiftly by him. It was really a most remarkable dream. There was the house, and his thoughts were brought up with a jerk, for when he came to think of it, he couldn't remember anything but the house. And suddenly, with a tinge of disappointment, he recognized that after all, the house was quite strange to him. He hadn't even dreamed of it before. It was a white house standing on high ground. There were trees near it, blue hills in the distance, but its peculiar charm was independent of surroundings. For, and this was the point, the climax of the dream, it was a strangely beautiful house. His pulses quickened as he remembered anew the strange beauty of the house. The outside of it, of course, for he